Hey everyone, today's energy healing is going to be on how to speak your truth and be heard. So today's energy healing is going to be on how to speak your truth and be heard. If that's something you've struggled with, whether you've had a tough time figuring out what's your truth and how do I express it, or if on the flip side, once you express it, you kind of don't really get a whole lot of reception. You don't feel like your message really is heard by the other person. Today we're going to take a look at what are some of the energetic patterns that might be getting in the way of that. So if you're new here, what we're going to do is in a second, I'm going to pop up a bunch of numbers and then you're going to let your intuition guide you to select one of those numbers, whichever one you feel drawn to, and that's going to correspond with a group reading that I'm going to do on what are the dominant energetic patterns that are in the way. Then what happens is I'll talk about where those patterns came from, then I'll do a little energy healing on them. I'll talk about what they're going to shift to, and as you change those patterns on the inside, the external world is going to shift around you. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and I'll pop the numbers up now so you can go ahead and take a pick and see which one you like. If you want a little more time, you can go ahead and pause the video, and I'll assume you got your number by now. And what you can do is if you want to skip right ahead to your reading, you can go use the timestamps down below in the description box, and that will fast forward you to your reading. I would recommend that you hang around for the optional grounding meditation, which I'll lead everybody through, which one helps you get more grounded, two makes it a little bit easier for me to read your patterns and makes this whole frequency meditation feel a lot smoother and it won't be as disorienting. Please do not listen to this while you're driving. Although this may look, sound, and feel a lot like a normal meditation, it's not the same thing. It can be physically disorienting, so please make sure you're not driving. And if you're curious about how any of this stuff works, you can listen to my podcast where I explain all about that. But on these YouTube energy healings, I just want to focus on shifting the patterns so that you start having a better experience without going into all the how it works and all that stuff. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get going with the grounding meditation. Feet flat on the floor, spine straight. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold. Release. Hold at the exhale. And inhale again. Hold. And exhale. Okay. And just keep that rhythm going. Alright, first things first is for you to imagine a cylinder going down through the bottom of your spine all the way down to the center of the earth. You might already be feeling different. Just noticing what you're experiencing, and as you see that cylinder going all the way down into the center of the earth, go ahead and let whatever it is that you don't need anymore to drain out of you. You don't have to consciously track that. You just have to kind of give permission for your higher self to come in and just help you let go of the things that you don't need anymore around speaking your truth and being heard. One more exhale. All right. On your next inhale, you're going to breathe up, patterns from the center of the earth. Into the lower half of your body. Next inhale, you're going to bring those helpful patterns up to mid-torso. Allowing yourself to become really, really present. And one more inhale, this time all the way up to the top of your head. Paying attention to your body, where your feet are, where your knees are, where your torso is, where your chest is, arms, head, neck, shoulders. On the next inhale, you're going to ask this question, which is not my question, but it's a really good question. How do I connect to pure source even stronger? And then if you'd like, you can expand out into like a bubble, your own little bubble. It's about 3 feet outside of your body in all directions. Making sure we don't drift away, make sure we stay in our body. If that's too distorting for you, then come back into your body from the bubble. Alright, so the majority of us will be feeling pretty different, like let's say about 80%. And if you're not feeling different, that's totally fine, don't worry about it. Yeah, still works just the same. Just flip your eyes open really quick. Just notice what is your external environment, what is your physical body. Look at something inanimate. Give me one more second, I'm just kind of like putting us into the right spot. Just a note for this, for everyone listening at this point, if you drink alcohol, you might want to dial back a little bit on that, especially if you're doing more and more of this work, because that's going to become like more distorting than normal. So yeah, just if you drink, maybe tone it down a bit, especially if you're doing a lot of this. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get started with group number 1. All right, group 1, let's see what's going on. Okay, so for this group, what I notice is it's like there's a cord between you and your audience, and then it's just kind of like frayed at one of the ends. So it's like, imagine a rope, and then at the very end it's frayed, so there's only like a strand or two that's reaching them. So that's basically what's going on with this group, where it's like your message is getting diluted because you're not all the way connected with other people. Yeah, it's like not wanting to be seen, not wanting to be heard, not wanting to be connected with them. It's just like a privacy thing. It's like you're trying to kind of like keep people at arm's length, but you're also trying to connect with them. So it's like it just doesn't work both ways. So this is probably a pattern that you picked up from mom and mom or whoever had the maternal energy when you were growing up. It's a safety thing. It's like let me just make sure they don't see me too much. Yeah, it's like not wanting to like lead people on. Because if you connect too much, then people can get really excited, and then they come in your space, and then you have a lot more that you have to deal with. So it's like, well, let me just hold them off here on the outside. It's like different layers, where it's like, let me just hold them on the outside. Let me keep them on this outer layer. Then I don't have to like deal with so many of them inside. It's like a concert. Like if they have the outer layer and you just don't let a whole lot in, then you don't have to deal with all that stuff, all those emotions on the inner layer. So you just have a strong perimeter. So that's what you're doing, because you're here because you want to communicate more, you want to speak your truth more, you want to let people in, and you want to let people see you. Ultimately, for this group, communication is about transparency. And that's the thing you're having a tough time with, is like actually wanting to let people in and let them see you, because that connection, like the rope that I was talking about in the beginning, what you want that to be is you don't want it to just be like this frayed single strand that's the only thing that they're getting, because that's distorting their picture of you, that's distorting the messages that you're sending across. It's like only 20% of your message is ever being conveyed, if that. So it's like 20% of your message, 20% of who you are, like that's all that's getting conveyed instead of all of everything that you got behind it. So you're keeping that distance because you don't want to have too much transparency. It's kind of like a privacy thing. I keep thinking of like online security, like you want to have layers of protection. So if we go back a handful of generations, so back in the day, it was like a lot safer to keep people at a distance, especially for women with men that are strangers. So that's like the general idea. It's like it was just safer. Now, thankfully, there's been a lot of advances in terms of common decency to the point now where that's less of an issue. Still is definitely an issue. There's still a lot more that can be done, and there's a lot more. Collectively, we still have a lot more of a way to go to get to the point where things feel a lot safer for women. But that's like the basic pattern. You were around your mom was running this pattern. She was able to connect with people emotionally, but not connect too much where it kind of made them feel like they could intrude into you. So that's going on with your communication. So regardless of who you're talking to, whether it's friends, whether it's your audience, whether it's prospective clients, whether it's family members, it's just like you're connecting only a little bit in order to maintain privacy, maintain some distance, because there's a lot of safety programming there. So I'd like to work on that. So let me talk about, after the energy healing, what's going to come in and what's going to be the new pattern, what's going to be your new experience of communication with people. So you're going to experience a lot more transparency, and that connection between the two of you is going to be instant. It's like a form of direct communication. So for this group, when you keep that privacy, what happens is you think you're keeping them away, and you think you're keeping that distance for your safety. So it's like they have to make it through all these different layers to really see who you are. But what happens is when you do that, you kind of let them in one layer at a time, one layer at a time, one layer at a time. And then once they get in really close to you, then they see you for who you are. And then all the problems, they come up. What I want you to think about this is like we'll shift you so that it's going to be more like direct communication from the start. It's like you don't have to say anything, but energetically, it's like people are going to see into who you are, and they're going to be like, whoa, okay, I know who this person is. I know what they care about. I know what they don't care about. I understand them. I get them. I get their vibe. And right immediately, they're just going to decide like, oh, okay, I want to move closer or I want to move further away. And if there's someone that's not beneficial for you, I mean, it's just like in any communication, like if you get in an argument with someone, it's like they misinterpret who you are, you misrepresent who you are, they misinterpret, you misrepresent, and then it blows up. This is like going right from the beginning. It's like without you even having to say anything, your energy is basically going to say like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And then if it's not a match, then they're just going to like bounce off you and go away. So then you won't get enmeshed into all this like layered mess where you have people that are like halfway in. So what this will do for you is you're going to feel a lot more direct. You're going to feel a lot more connected with people, whether they are going to be in your life or they're not going to be in your life. It's going to be a lot more polarizing. So people are going to be like, oh, I love this guy or I hate this guy. And regardless, that's a good thing because then they're not going to get enmeshed with you. They're not going to come all the way in if it's not going to be beneficial for either of you, and you're just not going to get involved with them. And you won't have to keep managing it and like having it take so much of your attention for you to decide like, okay, do I want to let them in another layer? It's just they're going to see you for who you are. You're going to be really transparent, and then there's no guessing. Then there's no reason for them to come closer if it doesn't match. And then I'll help you just feel like more sturdy and more strong in yourself. Think of people that like come into your space. Notice how when they come into your space, they do so kind of like indirectly and they kind of like edge their way in. Versus like when you stare somebody like straight in the eye and you're looking at them, and it's like you look all the way into their eye and then you can see the person behind their eyes. And like they can see the person behind your eyes. And it's like that clear. I mean, it's really intense, but like that's going to be how it is with people. So they're just going to be like, okay, whoa, this is who they are. I get it. And then you guys can decide if you're going to be connected or not. Yeah, so that feels good. So that's what it's going to move into after this energy healing, if you want it. Now, every single energetic pattern that we are running was once a solution to something that was even worse. So instead of just, discarding it and going like, oh, this isn't something that serves me anymore, like, and judge it away, let's see if we can come into harmony and a sense of peace about what this is really about. Yeah, I mean, just imagine yourself, even if you don't have any direct connection with this, whether this is like past lives or past generational stuff or just like a metaphor. Imagine being a woman in England in the early 1900s, 1910, 1920, just in that time frame. Just imagine like how much formality there is. So my girlfriend and I have been watching this show called Downton Abbey, and then it's crazy, man. They would have people like come over to their house, and they have a dinner party, and then they decide like, okay, you're gonna get married to so-and-so, or I'm gonna marry you, after they've like gone on like 2 walks together. And like that's just how they decide who they're gonna get married to. It's insane. So back in that time period, women had to be extremely discreet in terms of opening themselves up to allow someone in. Because we'll just say like men back then, like the whole boys will be boys thing. Like there was that, just like a way more. Women were so much more skilled emotionally. Being a man used to be just kind of being like a brute, and then you just push your way and bulldoze into stuff, and now that is not very cool. Back when it was not very cool and you were around a bunch of masculine energy that would just kind of bulldoze and brute force and push its way into your space, it's like that's why from the feminine perspective you had to be really careful about like, okay, what am I inviting here? And you needed like all those different layers of security to keep you protected, because you could look at someone the wrong way, and then your reputation could be tarnished on town because everybody would be, labeling you as, would be labeling you as like a slut or whatever whatever fancy word they would call it back then. And I mean, that's another conversation, but my point is, regardless of all that stuff, that's where it came from. So if you think about it back then, and that part of you that's still connected to that, like that was huge for women because they like either weren't allowed to work or didn't have rights. I mean, women are still like working through all this stuff today, but it was even more pronounced back then. So it's like there was so much riding on inviting the right type of masculine energy into her space. So you just copied this pattern from somewhere up your lineage. This is a general reading, so I can't really pinpoint it for every single person, but I'm just describing the dynamics that are coming in. And that's why you had to have that pattern. That's why you had to run that pattern. And now you don't have to be as protected because there's a lot more support and other protection, as well as like that intensity that you get when people see who you are and there's no guessing. Like it's so transparent and there's a lot of power in that. They go like, oh, okay. Like you can see it with, men getting in trouble for being brutish and like pushing themselves forward into a woman's space. I'm using men and women, but I mean masculine and feminine. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It's just a good metaphor for this. So my point is, now masculine energy is not getting away with that. Like the rest of society is just like, no. There's no excuses. That's not okay. So now, let's say you are around some kind of unwanted, brutish energy that's going to push itself in. You're going to like stare at it. It's going to see you and it's going to be like, oh no, I can't do this. Like this doesn't feel right. So the reason I'm talking about all this is the safety patterning. So you got like the one side of it is you've just copied and pasted a pattern that came from your lineage, especially the feminine energy. And then the other part of it is just like you need to feel safe to let people see you and see that as the thing that is the safest behavior that you can do. So if that sounds good, I'm going to go ahead and start doing energy work on you. If you're not sure, you can come back to this later. But I'm going to start working on that, and I'll let you know if any other things come up. So if you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose. Out through your mouth. One of the functions of breathing at the same time as me is it's a way of giving me a consent to do this. No energy working or whatever can work on you without your consent at some level. So this is very important for this group because you don't want that brutish, you don't want me pushing into your space. So if you feel that way, like I'm pushing into your space, like you got to notice all this. And if that's getting triggered for you, that's good because that's showing you like, hey, you got this thing running. This isn't something I'm creating. You've always had this. I'm just bringing it up to the surface and you're seeing it. So if you're seeing it and if you're feeling like, oh, Zach is pushing his way into my space. No, I'm not. But it's really good that you're feeling that way because that means we're like right there. So if you want to continue, take a deep breath in with me. Out through your mouth. Okay. So after this, what's going to happen is your intentions are going to be, you're going to be telegraphing your intentions a lot more, which is going to be good. It's also going to make it so it's harder for you to, it's the metaphor I get is like, it's like when you're playing poker, you're kind of like withholding information. It's like you're going to be playing with an open hand. So it's like people are going to be able to see your cards from the get-go. So if you have a desire to be more private and, you know, only kind of like show people a little bit by little bit, that's going to adjust for you. So just so you are aware. I also like help like separate you from your mom or that feminine energy that was responsible for that pattern that you inherited. For this group, for the safety component that I was talking about, notice how powerful it feels when someone can see you all the way through. Like you'll see that they go like all the way past all those layers and then they can see into you and you go all the way past their layers and you can see into them. And notice how much more powerful and safe that feels when you can speak to them non-verbally on that layer. So after this, you'll go through that experience and you'll be like, whoa, they really see me and I really see them. Like we're hearing each other. And just if that feels safe for you, then that's the way you kind of lock this in. And if it doesn't feel super safe for you, it might happen again to kind of give you another shot and then give you another chance to decide whether or not you want to move to the new pattern or if you want to go back and stick with what you got from the old. So yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. And I'll see you next time. Later. Hey, what's up, group 2? Let's see what's going on with you in terms of speaking your truth and being heard. Yeah, this group feels a lot different than the last group. You guys are very calm. Like, it's easy for you to express yourself. Let's see. Maybe there's not enough depth, but like you're very comfortable letting people see you. Like, and I just feel like so much calmer. Yeah, you're just kind of like, okay, let's talk it out. Let's figure this out. Like, what's your perspective? And it's like no perspective is necessarily out of bounds or like not allowed. You're just willing to talk it out and kind of see what everybody thinks about things. Feels pretty nice. It's cool for me to experience. You could deepen it a little bit more. But yeah, this group feels like actually very skilled at speaking. Okay. This group is very good at speaking, very good at getting along with others, very, very good at the being heard part. It's like the speaking your truth part. You could open up to another layer of that. But it feels very, like you're actually very good at this, and this would be more of a fine-tuning, minor adjustment thing rather than like a huge change. This group, you probably try to avoid taboo, political topics, sexual topics, all those kinds of things. Like you're like, hey, no, hey, come on, let's relax. Let's talk about something else. It's like you like keeping it light, but yeah, there's that other part of you that just craves to go in for the depth, and that's what you're missing out on. So it's like, you guys are in a good spot because you have the patterning to be able to communicate with someone and create that balance and harmony so that you can go deeper, but they won't feel like freaked out about it. Yeah, it's like it feels safe to be more intimate with you in terms of your connection. So in terms of speaking your truth and being heard, you can speak more of your truth. It's like you guys just need to feel more permission to go to that deeper layer with other people, and it's not like it's going to be rejected. So that's the pattern. Okay, so the old pattern, the thing that's getting in the way of this for you is you may have been, as a kid, you may have been rejected when you talked about really deep, intimate stuff. It could have been a thing where you're all sitting around the dinner table and you're like, oh, what about this thing? And then someone just goes, no, we are not talking about that. We do not talk about that. And then you were like, okay, never going to do that again. So then you just like shut that down. So it could have been family, it could have been at school, could have just been with like extended family, at like family gatherings. But basically just some authority figure saying, we don't talk about that. And you going like, okay, never going to do that. So then you kind of got really good at all this stuff in order to cope with that, in order to be like, okay, look, I can stay in the lines. I don't have to go crazy here. Don't worry, we can talk about stuff. Relax, calm down. And you've taken a challenge and you've harnessed it, and now you made it a good thing. So, well done. There may be more traumatic stuff and, trauma response stuff that you could work through. You can keep coming back to these. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Or there's a lot of other really good healers out there, a lot of good psychologists. You can look up the hashtag self-healing or self-healer on Instagram, and you'll probably find a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, so for this group, it's mostly just about permission. Okay, so important thing here is for you not to beat up on yourself for the old pattern, not to look down on yourself, not to get sad about it, like, oh no, I should have been doing something differently. No, you shouldn't. You've done everything perfectly. With the past, you want to look to the past as like there was no choice for you to do other than what you did. And what you did was the best possible choice given the menu of choices that you had at the time. Given your capabilities, given your level of understanding, that's like the best thing that you could do. So the picture I'm getting is like a little kid. It's like a little kid that what they made for dinner every night was a grilled cheese and a jelly sandwich. Just because now you're getting introduced to like all different other kinds of foods, and you're like learning about fine dining, and you're learning about, really amazing health foods and things like that, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the 6, 7, 8-year-old version of you that was like, well, I know how to make a killer grilled cheese and jelly sandwich. You don't look back at that kid like that kid failed, like the kid did anything wrong. It's just like that's all the kid knew how to cook, and it's pretty cool that the kid was cooking something. So instead of beating up on yourself for the old pattern, like just take a minute and acknowledge like, wow, I turned something that could have, shut me down even more. I turned that into a good thing. I turned that into a positive thing, and it's been working for me. So now, like, if we take that 6-year-old kid and we grow them up, 20, 30 years later in life, then, it might be time for us to learn, like, oh, okay, you don't always have to have grilled cheese and jelly sandwiches. There's other things that you can make. Have that kind of relationship with your old pattern. There's nothing wrong with it. It was awesome for what it was. And then where you're at now, like, you can step into more sophisticated versions of you speaking your truth and being heard by other people. To give you a little preview of what's coming after the energy healing part, yeah, it's just like you keep your same level of like, hey, let's keep it easy, let's keep it harmonious, we're all getting along. And then when it feels right, it's kind of like you're like, okay, all right, the vibe's good, okay, let's just go a little deeper, and then they'll go a little deeper. And that's going to feel really rewarding to you because there's that part of you. That's why when you're around other people and you're communicating, you're very skilled at it, but it doesn't like feel like a relief to you. It's just kind of like management and managing people's expectations, and you're very good at it. And it's nice for you to be around people for sure, but it's just like that deeper layer that wants to come out where it's going to feel cathartic to you just to express at that level. And you'll do it in a calibrated way so that it comes out and it's received well because you're very skillful at that. So that's what's coming. Now I'll do the energy work that'll shift the patterns. So if you're ready and if you'd like that, take a deep breath in. Hold. Release. And then I'll just start working. You just keep breathing. Main pattern I'm deleting is like nobody wants to hear that. Deleting that out and replacing it with like that same excitement where you're like, yeah, no, I want to hear what you think. It's like the way that you are around other people, like helping you see that other people want to see what you think about those off-limit topics. Pay attention to the area in front of your face, maybe like a foot, like diagonally up in front of you, kind of like a cone going from your third eye out a foot in front of you, maybe 2 feet in front of you, and then kind of like a cone. Okay. I'm going to let you guys keep hanging out in this space. Just stay in this energetic space, kind of stay here and meditate on your own for a little bit. And you'll continue to get benefit from this. And then be ready for people to be more enthusiastic around you. So you kind of create that enthusiasm for you expressing those deeper parts of yourself. And it'll feel cathartic. It'll feel like a relief. It'll feel like a release for you. And the more that you express that, you'll see your own enthusiasm reflected in the people around you, and they're going to be like, yeah, no, tell me about this. And then you have to you got to go with it and be like, okay, cool, this is what I want. This shouldn't be like a seismic change. It's going to be pretty gentle, and yeah, just like enjoy this. So I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing, and I'll see you next time. All right, hey group 3, let's go ahead and see what's going on with you guys in terms of speaking your truth and being heard. So for this group, communication is very scattered. It's like you guys speak over the top of each other and the messages don't really land. And you feel like you're communicating, if you feel like relatively open and willing, but it just stays very surface layer, and you speak quickly in a way where the message doesn't actually land and resonate with them. So then you rush in with another thing to explain it, and then they rush in with some other thing. It's like you're both half paying attention to the conversation. It's kind of like if you have somebody you know that when you're texting each other, it's like you just text back and forth, but neither party is like really paying attention to what's being said, and then you get to the end of texting each other and you're just like, what did we even say we were going to do, or what did we agree on, even though there was a bunch of communication that happened. So that kind of dynamic, that's what shows up when you go to speak your truth with people. You think you're doing it, you feel kind of like, yeah, I'm willing to talk about all this stuff, and you feel like the communication is happening, but it's like very hollow and the message isn't actually received. So then you get to the end and you're thinking like, well, did I even say what I thought I was going to say? The other person's like, well, what did this person even say? I don't even know what just happened, even though there was a bunch of dialogue and communication. It feels like there's a fear of letting things slow down, of letting things settle in, letting things go deeper. It just feels like this group is out of time. So you're probably someone that's always like running behind schedule. You're always trying to catch up to things. You could either always be late, or you could always be anxious, feeling like, what did I just forget? Like, or what am I going to forget? Or in your mind, you're like lagging behind time. So then that throws you off. This is new for me, so let me get the hang of this. Let me understand what's going on. It's like you finish the conversation, you walk away, you get in your car, you start driving away, and then it clicks in, and you're like, oh, okay, now I understand what I was trying to say. This is just a thing about putting you guys back into the present moment. And if you're speaking and communicating from there, one, it's going to help you like find your truth. You're going to be able to like actually be more present and go a lot deeper. You might notice this pattern with other people that are around you, especially like with people that you try to get deep with, you want to be deeper with, but then what happens is as soon as you start getting into that territory, they just kind of like rush everything along because they feel antsy. It's like they have this pattern that you have as well, but it's easier for you to see when it's reflected in somebody else. So it's like anytime you feel like you're actually getting somewhere and you're actually getting to know someone, they're like, yeah, so anyway, let's talk about this thing. And they just kind of like move it along, trying to get out of that space because doesn't feel very comfortable for them. It's like you're used to being in that space. It's like 2-3 seconds. I mean, I don't know how much time, but it's like you're just a little bit off. So if you know, like your phone, if you're watching a video or something, and then the audio gets off track with the video, so it's like you can see the video moving and then the sound comes in after the fact, and then it just kind of throws you off and it makes it hard to connect and communicate, even though there's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's like it just throws off your experience of watching the movie. That's basically what happens to you when you go to speak your truth with people. And that's what it's like for them to try to listen to you speaking your truth. So what I'll do in this energy healing is help you click into time so that you're more aligned in the present moment, and you won't feel like you're playing catch up as much. You'll feel more like you're here. This is going to change a lot of different things in your life, but you'll notice it in communication specifically. Let me talk about how this pattern of you getting off schedule with time, where that came from. So for like 80% of us, it's like the feeling that I get, and this could be an actual memory that you have, or it could just be a metaphor that's describing it. Sometimes those blend together for me. Yeah, I just get the feeling that somebody's yelling at you, and then you like snap back, and then you're like, okay, here, I'm gonna make sure that I like kind of step back from the situation and I just like tiptoe my way into things. So it's kind of like, it's like you're leaning back. It's like, imagine trying to run fast, but you have to like lean your body back instead of forward. You have to like lean your body back and you have to try to run like that. So it's like there was a moment where someone that you loved got mad, yelled at you, and then you had that, whoa, let me step back response. You did that to try to get away and separate yourself from the moment, which you did successfully. But then what happened was it bumped you out of rhythm with time. So then so that's when it started having that dynamic that I was talking about, like when you watch a movie and the audio gets off track. So that strategy that worked for you, it's kind of like boxing. If somebody is boxing and they start throwing punches, the thing that like really helps is if you have awkward rhythm. So you're just a little bit off, then it makes it harder for a boxer to make contact with you. So if you have like very smooth, predictable rhythm, then it's a lot easier for your opponent to guess where you're going to move. That was your strategy, was like, okay, let me just throw them off their timing. So then any aggression, any yelling, any uncertainty, when that comes at me, it just kind of misses me. So that's that thing. So you just stepped back in time, so then it throws off attacks, which is useful to you, especially for this group. It feels like you had to deal with a lot of this in your house. You had to deal with this more than most other people do. So that's why you developed this as like a coping mechanism, and it worked. It was beneficial because especially when we're younger and there's not a whole lot we can do, then it's tougher for us to be in those situations. But like the older we get, the more our perspective matures and the more like self-sufficient we become, then it's not that big of a deal anymore. Then we don't have to rely so intensely on those coping mechanisms. So it's not like it was a bad thing. It's just like if you're in a tough situation and you have people yelling at you all the time, you had to come up with some way of getting out of that situation. So now where you're at, you just want to be able to connect with more people. You want to be able to feel your truth and feel it in the moment. So what it is that you're expressing comes out and it feels more congruent as you say it. You'll be able to know the whole time, like, I am speaking my truth, I am speaking my truth. And then if you veer off for a second, you'll feel yourself go out, and then you can correct it and you come right back into being like, yep, this is my truth, rather than you having that epiphany, 15 minutes after the fact. So that's why you have that old pattern. And then I talked a little bit about what's going to come in for you after you do this healing, but let me check and see if there's a little more information there. That's what you've been trying to create with people by talking fast and having you guys miss each other. You've been trying to create that rhythm, that harmonious rhythm between two people, like when a conversation is going really well or when banter is going really well. So what's going to happen is you're going to line up and you're going to be in time. You're going to be in the proper time for you. So now you won't be trying to like dodge the conversation. Basically what you'll be doing is you'll be very harmonious. You'll be in rhythm and you'll be able to start finishing other people's sentences, especially the ones that you're like close with. And there won't be as many of those like surface layer miscommunications. Yeah, and this is just going to bring you closer with people. It's going to be cool because now all the efforts, and it feels like the majority of this group is pretty extroverted actually. While you might have an introverted side, you still know how to be extroverted and like you're pretty comfortable there. So this is going to take all those talents and then everything's going to click in and then there's going to be a rhythm. You'll feel more certain about yourself while you're speaking and you'll just feel like, okay, I'm all the way here, and you won't feel yourself like drifting. It's kind of like buffering in between those two different moments in time. So if you're ready for that, I'm going to go ahead and just start working on you. Just take a deep breath in with me as a form of consent so that I'm allowed to actually do this stuff and help you heal yourself. So if you're ready, go ahead and take a deep breath in. Exhale through the mouth. And in through the nose. Hold. Exhale through the mouth. With this group, just like pick a number 1 through 5, and then whatever number you pick, like you decide what it is, like time your breathing for that amount. So it's like if you pick 4, for example, you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. And keep that rhythm going. So you create the rhythm and hold that while I work on you on the background. Pay attention to your chest area, upper chest. Okay, so you should be feeling pretty good right now. Feeling like you're really here, really present. And that's going to become the new normal for you. So a couple things for you to pay attention to as you shift these patterns. So basically, all the other areas in your life where you've been feeling like you've been behind or you're playing catch up all the time, where you just feel off, there's going to be a lot of change for you. So just be aware of that. But that's pulling you out of that like time delay and pulling you into the present moment. So all the other areas of your life where you're a little bit off centered in time, or you're not present and you can't get present, or it's like really hard for you to be present, those things are going to shift. So be aware for that. I slowed down the rate of change for you because if it all changes at once, then it's like jarring, and then it can kind of backfire. I slowed everything down so it's more manageable, so it happens little by little. So if you want things to go fast, then get really into the present moment, and then you can make decisions from there, because that's where you're going to be a lot more powerful. If you didn't do it, go back and do the grounding meditation, and in that you can start doing that. So especially if you're going to go and hang out with a bunch of people, like a big group or whatever, where you're going to be around a lot of other people's energy, do some version of grounding yourself, anchoring yourself in down to the center of the earth, and connecting with those stable frequencies that generate the earth. So if you do that, it's going to make you feel really sturdy, and instantly is going to connect you in time. And then it'll pull you into your body, and then it'll help you stay there. So just do that as you feel like it's beneficial for you, until it's no longer beneficial for you. But that's like a good thing to do, especially if you're going to be around a lot of other people's energies at centering you, so that you stay in your lane. So as you're expressing your truth, you feel stable, and people will be able to feel that stability coming off of you, and then they'll hear your messages a lot more. So that's gonna do it for you guys, group number 3. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you have any questions or any updates or stuff, feel free to comment below. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing, and I will see you next time. All right, hey group 4, let's see what's going on for you guys. So first thing I noticed for this group is you just feel a ton of pressure to get it right. Yeah, it's like you feel a ton of pressure to express yourself. Probably in society, there's a lot of people that say you got to be authentic, and you take that message to heart, and you feel like it's very, very important and it's super serious for you to express your truth. So then what happens is you pile on all this pressure onto yourself to be authentic, which ironically makes it harder for you to be authentic, because then you feel all this pressure, and then since you're wound that tight, then it's you go to speak your truth and you are courageous and going in and figuring out, okay, what is it that's true for me? But you pile on all this pressure, then it's hard to express that without fearing judgment, without fearing you're going to be attacked, not really attacked, but without fearing judgment, and without fearing you're getting it wrong. The words that you're saying don't match what you truly, truly feel inside. So it's just a very serious, somber thing where you're I want to speak my truth, and you're making it too serious. And it's not there's a right or wrong, it's just how serious you're making it is adding too much pressure for you to be able to express yourself freely, which is actually the most authentic thing that you could be doing. So what this energy healing is going to help you with is it's going to help you tune into play, because when you're in light-hearted, spontaneous play, the truth comes through a lot easier. So if you think about little kids, they're in the frequency of play all the time. That's just how they exist. And when you're around little kids and they're just being playful and they're having a good time or whatever, they can see straight through you, and they can call out, okay, you have this pattern, you have this insecurity, you have this thing. They can just see straight into you. And then they'll say, oh, I have that insecurity too, or I feel this way too, or why is this person like that, or this confuses me. And since they're so light about it, it's also super, super authentic. So what I'll help you do is not make it so much effort for you to be authentic, so it's more of just a natural expression of who you are, and it just kind of flows out of you. Let's talk about the serious pattern that you got going on. That feels like a peer group thing. It feels like a generational thing. You could have just grown up around people, especially friends, peers, classmates, who all talked about expressing your truth and being authentic as being really, really important. And you just took that to heart, and you're just yeah, I want to do that. That seems important. That seems meaningful, and that's the truth. So that's what I want to do. But then it's even if you're talking to no one, you have a ton of peer pressure on you to make sure that you express yourself authentically. I'll help you tap into the frequency of play when you're speaking and communicating with other people, so that your communication comes through unblocked and it's more innocent, kind of like a child. And and then people will just connect with that in a deeper way. So it'll get you to that deeper level of connection that you're reaching for, which you honestly, you are able to connect deeply with people, but you burn too many calories doing it. So, let's see if there's any other information I can get for you. The pattern that's behind this is I don't want to turn out like them, whether it's I don't want to turn out like my parents, or I don't want to turn out like the rest of my generation. I don't want to turn out like all these other people, the ones that are they're just having a bad time, and you saw authenticity as a way to get out of that. So that's why you were oh yes, I am 100% in on this. I'm going to find my truth. I'm going to speak it boldly, and I'm going that way. But then you have the weight of the world on you every time you go to talk. So let's make some peace with that serious side of you. I know I'm being very lighthearted about this, but you got to come into rapport with that before you can change any patterns. Yeah, so the point of the seriousness was it helped you focus. It helped you get dialed in to what you want, and it helped you get to know yourself a lot better. It also helped you feel like you honor yourself, which is important, because there a lot of the time people that speak in a lighthearted manner they don't honor themselves as much. And you have a lot of that going. So we want to keep that part of you that honors yourself, because you don't want to go into like, being super self-deprecating and I mean, it's fine if you enjoy that. I wouldn't recommend it, because then you dishonor yourself and you're basically saying to everybody else like, yep, walk all over me, dishonor me. And even though it may not seem like a big deal, it is. So that part of you that has that serious attention to yourself and how you communicate and what your truth is, and knowing that, like, that's really, really important. There's tremendous value in honoring yourself at the level that you do. And there's a much easier way, less effortful way for you to pull that off. So that's what I'll help you step into. And if you have any attachment to it being really hard, like I need to really scrutinize and find my truth, just notice that that's probably another pattern. You probably have some like hard work patterns, or like feeling like you need to prove yourself patterns. So if you listen to some of my other YouTube healings, that might help you out with that stuff. So if that sounds good, let me go ahead and start working on you. So if you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. And inhale again. Out through your mouth. And you keep breathing, and I'll work on you in the background. All right. One of the things I just want you to be aware of is like help put like a bubble around you. It's kind of like training wheels, so that if anybody's going to come into your space and be really harsh and aggressive with you, especially when you're in this like vulnerable state, so that'll be there temporarily and eventually it'll fade away. But it's like just like that little incubation period. So when you're starting to express yourself freely, more openly, more lighthearted, this just kind of pushes people out. So if people are going to be really harsh and critical or aggressive with you, it just kind of bumps them out of the experience so that you don't rendezvous with them, you don't have synchronicity with them. So it pushes them off for a little bit so that you can kind of get into this new mode where you feel like, okay, I'm safe, it's okay to be like this, and wow, this is nice. I like expressing my truth in this way. So it's a nurturing environment for you so that you can take this pattern on, and then the little safety bubble will fall away so that you can just go back to regular life, and you can kind of like decide how your bubble's gonna work from there on out. But like I'm just putting some kind of, yeah, just like the same way you put training wheels on a kid that's learning how to ride the bike, with you and this new form of self-expression, I'm just kind of putting those training wheels there for a little bit just to make it a little easier on you. And then you'll experiment with this, and then I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's just going to feel relaxing. It's going to feel like so much less effort to just say what you feel. And yeah, it should be pretty gratifying. So that's the new pattern that you're going to be running. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to comment in. If you like today's video, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and I will see you next time. See ya.